Hello, I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man. My guest is Richard Parkinson. Richard is a partner within JMW's commercial department. Now, Richard, I've seen that the NFL have set up an online store. I was going to say in the US, but of course it's not. It's in the metaverse. So is it possible for brands to sell in the so-called metaverse?
The first thing we've got to look at is what is the metaverse. It's very unclear at the moment what the metaverse actually is. I mean, if you look at what the NFL are doing, they're operating within Roblox, so they're using that as the conduit to get out there. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be possible for brands to exploit and deal in the metaverse. They're going to have to look at a few things though, namely who they're dealing with. Are the brands themselves going to sort of set up their own shops in the metaverse, or, which I think is probably more likely, they're going to do these collaborations and partnerships with people like Roblox, people like Facebook or Meta, as we need to call them now. Sony, Manchester City have just signed up with them, and you've seen various singers and artists signing up to do concerts within these virtual worlds. So, and Ariana Grande with Fortnite. So it's certainly something brands are going to be looking at going forward.
And in a commercial department, you deal with a lot of contractual relationships. Inevitably, there'll be contracts involved. What sort of things would brands, would companies need to consider?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be one of those things that I think for the first few companies that make that plunge, it's going to be something that's going to be the great unknown. But I think what you've almost got to do is take a step back from it being this metaverse and being this highly unusual and novel area, and really strip it back to basics and look at what you do in the real world, because in reality they're going to be similar to real world contracts. So you're going to be looking at things like what the other party can do with your intellectual property. So taking it back to your NFL example, I think it's probably unlikely that the NFL is going to have that much input into the store. It's possibly going to be ran by Roblox, but with them having a license to use NFL iconography and the like, and it'll be the Roblox that will do a lot of that. So what you may well end up with is something really similar to an intellectual property license. You can be looking at those things like how much control you've got over your IP. Do you get consents? Do you get to approve anything that goes on, the way in which your IP is being used, so that you can make sure that what this third party is going to be doing with your IP ties into exactly what you're wanting to do going forward. You're also going to have to look at the very important thing of how you actually get paid. So well and good doing these things and it all being fun and novel, but unless you're getting paid, there's not much use for it, is there? You're not going to get a pat on the head from the boss by just saying, "Oh, we've got this store. If you're making money out of it, absolutely great." So yeah, so it's likely to be some sort of profit share between the third party provider and the person providing the IP rights. And it's being clear as to sort of how much of that you're going to get. Is there any minimum volume, any minimum guarantee? And if that's not hit, can you get out of it? And I think the other thing that's going to need to be clear is sort of termination rights. How would you get out of this thing if it's not working for you? How would you get out of this thing if it's a platform that you don't want to be associated with anymore, or if it's just not ticking the boxes that you wanted? So, that's something else. And one key thing, as you've hinted at the start there about things being done in the US and it's being done in the metaverse, what law is actually going to apply to these things? If you're dealing with some of these Silicon Valley companies, it may well be that you're stuck with the US law, in which case you're going to have to ensure that you understand what that actually means for you.
And you mentioned the word the plunge. So any businesses watching this who think, well, let's take the plunge, let's go to the metaverse. What can they do next? What's the next step?
I think the next step is sort of think carefully about what you're wanting to do and how you're going to achieve it, and how you're going to achieve that from a sort of operational and practical point of view. And then no doubt there'll be a contract there. And what I will always say is just don't just sign the contract. Always have it reviewed. And we're more than happy for anyone who wants to is going along this route and has got a contract and they want it reviewed. We're more than happy to have that discussion with them initially.
Richard, thank you very much for your insight. And if you'd like to contact Richard, you can email insideman@jmw.co.uk or call 0161 82 81 999. I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man.